Welcome to the NEREJ NYREJ podcast. I'm your host, Rick Kaplan. Today's podcast is sponsored by Cassidy Paving. Contact Cassidy Paving at www.cassidypaving.com for all your paving needs. To be a sponsor on our podcast, contact me, R. Kaplan, at nerej.com. And I'd like to introduce our guest for today. It's David. Well, I'll call you Dave Ellis from
There you
Ellis
go.
Realty Advisors. Dave has been around for quite a while, and Dave, you're going to tell us your journey, how you got to where you are today.
Sure. And Rick, thanks for having me on the show here. This is great. So yeah, my journey in real estate really started from a young age. I used to swing a hammer with my dad and in his construction business, just building single family homes. And he used to have a little cabinet shop in our garage in our house, and he'd be up milling, crown molding until 10 o'clock, keeping us up. I just kind of fell in love with the smell and the idea that you could, see a piece of property kind of come to life from a piece of raw land to a beautiful home. And there's a certain artistic element to it, and that's what kind of got me started swinging a hammer, bringing loads of shingles up into the top of a roof or something like that. And that was where I got started. And then when I got out of college, I went to Babson College, and I just had this idea that I really wanted to get into commercial real estate. And I tried to show my dad, hey, you're doing this residential single family stuff. We need to get into some bigger projects. And in 2006, 2007, we started to do some commercial real estate development and construction. And I tell this story a lot to people that are getting into the business or just about my journey, but it was a bumpy road in the beginning because we had the Great Recession in 2008, and we had a lot of projects going on, and we had houses, and I had an office building, and I was 22, 23 years old, and the bottom just fell right out of the market with the Great Recession, and I was handed a big slice of humble pie. And I guess one of the biggest lessons I learned was failure, right? It's not always easy. And I thought it would be easy, and it wasn't. And so that's what kind of led me into brokerage, was going through that process, starting from the ground floor in 2008 and 2009, and really just learning the business, meeting people, and kind of getting my face and name out there, over time. And I'm sure that's where I met you, and at a South Shore Chamber event or something like that, Rick. And that sort of trampolined my journey. And in 2008, 2009, there weren't a lot of people getting into commercial real estate brokerage. There was a lot of people getting out. Um, so I always say it was like running into a burning building. But it was the best experience I could have had in my career was going through that. And it kind of created who I am. And one thing led to another, and here we are.
Well, Dave, it sounds like you have gotten the lesson that a lot of people don't get until they've been going through the wonder years. Everything is glorious
Mhm.
and it's never going to fail, and then all of a sudden the bottom falls out and they have
Yeah.
nowhere to go. They don't understand what's happening. They lose everything.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and you didn't have that. You had the opposite.
No, yeah, I had the opposite. And I always say, when you're going through it, it sucks. But, and when you look back at it and you say, hey, at least I was, 22, 23, 24 years old. I
Right,
didn't have anything. I didn't have any responsibilities. I didn't, if I've got four kids now, and if I had that happen to me today, it'd
right.
be a much different situation. And so I was very fortunate in terms of the timing of that. And it just built who I am. And as far as, being able to fail, pick yourself back up, get back up on the horse, and keep on going.
Well, you had the ability to be able to do that at that time.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly. And in the real estate market, as everyone that's watching this knows, it's cyclical, and there's ups and downs that we see depending on either what's going on in the world or what's going on in the economy or what's going on, in a development down the street that's local. And there's constant change. That's the one certainty that we have is there's constant change in everything that we work on.
Well, I can tell you, I meet a lot of people in this industry, and anyone that's listening to the podcast, I found Dave to be one of the nicest and friendliest guys in the industry. So, when you're doing business with someone that's has that type of an attitude, it's not it's a pleasant experience, and that's important, I think, nowadays.
Yeah,
You know,
appreciate it. Checks in the mail, by the way, Rick.
yeah.
Thanks.
I'm gonna run
Um,
down and look at it, and look at my mailbox right now.
make sure it clears. Um, yeah, I mean, listen, you have to treat people with respect, right? And that's everybody because you never know when the shoe's going to be on the other foot. And in our business and commercial brokerage, I mean, I might be working with against somebody competing against one of my colleagues, industry colleagues on one day, and then hey, I have to do a deal with them, and I've got a buyer, a tenant for one of their buildings the next day. So you have to play nice in this industry, and because people have a good memory.
Yeah, and
So
it's not just this industry, it's almost any industry because
yeah,
I'll tell you,
100%.
people cannot afford to look at someone and say, "Oh, you know what? They're probably not going to be a good client for me." Because,
Yeah,
looks can be deceiving.
that's right.
First impressions can be deceiving.
Right.
So when you're in business, you have to treat everyone, like you said, with respect. And you have a great attitude. You're always
Yeah.
smiling, you know. I mean that
Thanks.
sometimes someone could be smiling and they have their hand in your pocket too, but you never know. But I can tell everyone that Dave's not like that. So
I I appreciate that. Yeah, it's something I tell my agents like you have to have respect and you have to be professional and treat everyone with dignity and it goes a long way. Our reputation is we've got a really good reputation and we need to maintain that
right,
because
yeah, you do.
good
You have
you
to.
know bad news travels faster than good news and we need to
Exactly.
hold so we need to hold our head up high and always hold a high standard.
So Dave, you're doing a little bit of development, and
Mhm.
you have your brokerage. So
Correct.
so
Yep.
now, do you also do your own construction?
Yep. Yep. So we have a construction company that we have. It's called Archway Construction. And we do a lot of third party, but it does some of the construction for our projects. So our new home at Fort Pond Park Road in Hingham, all the construction was done by Archway as the construction manager. So it was a really good fit and project for that company. So it's a strategic partner that we have, and but we also have our own property management company that supports some of the stuff that we do on the development side, and for third party. So we bill ourselves as full service. So really start to finish, the whole property life cycle, acquisition, management, construction, and disposition, the whole way.
So that seems to be a common theme right now. A lot of companies are starting to do it that way, where they have everything under one roof.
Mhm.
It's a
Mhm.
full service kind of
Yep.
one-stop shopping type of deal.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
And the the only thing it becomes a little I don't know, you got to be able to juggle a lot of balls in the air.
Sure.
And
Yep.
sometimes you can't, you have to say, well, I'm going to have to break this off. I can't afford to have that in there. And so
Sure.
everything is manageable for you.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't manage every aspect of the business. I kind of oversee it, but I don't manage every aspect. We've got really good staff and operations managers that take care of each one of those elements within the business. And we've got really good senior staff that takes care of each one of those business segments. And then it always kind of rolls up and it gels together nicely with what we do in brokerage, construction, property management. It always goes together nicely. And there's a lot of synergy and a lot of collaboration within our organization. And, we know when it's not the right fit. Our construction company, is awesome. And I think they're growing and they're doing some big things. But there's a certain point when, you have to bring in someone else for a certain project. And so we know our boundaries and our limits, and we want to grow as an organization, and we want to get better at how we do things, and say with confidence that we can take on this project and or take on this assignment and whatever that might be.
So you do other, someone can hire you to manage their property. It doesn't have to
Yeah,
be one of your properties. And as
yeah,
well as
yeah, of course.
someone can
Yeah,
hire you to do their, the construction for their property. It doesn't have to
yep.
be something that you own.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, correct. I mean, the stuff that we own and develop it's a pretty small piece of what we do. I mean, 95% of what we do is third party. So we've got clients that have vacant space that they're looking to lease, or buildings that they're looking to sell, or they've got a requirement, whatever that might be, an investment or an owner user requirement to acquire property, and we want to work with those clients to find the right thing. But they also might, just about every project that we go into, there's usually some construction element, and it might be small, it might be a large CapEx project, or it could be a small tenant improvement project for, a new lease. But there's always some sort of element to it. And so we picked up on that, 5, 6 years ago, and that's why we wanted to have that synergy with and have that in-house, because we just didn't want to have to rely on a third party that maybe we didn't know or didn't have any control over. And a lot of times, because of the communication that we have, between the construction and the leasing, we're able to see things before they become a problem. And it's usually a timing element. It's someone wasn't clear with how long it would take the construction project, or they might have, spec'd out a certain scope that was unnecessary, that become, and it became a lot more costly project when it didn't need to be. So having that full visibility across the project from a brokerage standpoint, management and construction, we just can have so much better insight and communication to the client and for the client, on each project.
So in the long run, having all of these companies under one umbrella is probably a good thing for you because, when someone is in a building, they outgrow it. So they're going to call their broker now, which is
Yeah.
Ellis Realty Advisors. And
Yep.
now
Yep.
you'll find them a location, a bigger location. So that
Yeah.
it kind of works out well.
Yeah, we want to be your real estate department, right? It's we want your, not everyone's got a real estate department. They're not big corporate conglomerate.
Right.
They might have someone that takes care of some piece of it, but we want to be that group that can really interface and bring a wide array of knowledge to whatever that project, and help that decision-making process. I mean, we've talked people out of buying buildings. We've talked people out of expanding, because, hey, we can go do something in-house, or, so it's really being someone that you can rely on to give you good advice. And again, we're looking out for their best interest, not our own. So
Now, we you are south of Boston focused, I would
yeah.
say.
Mhm.
So how do you find that the vacancy rates are in, south of Boston? And is it growing? You know,
Yeah, I guess it just depends on what asset class you're talking about. I think I've had
well,
a
let's
lot of
talk about all the
conversations.
different asset classes.
Sure. Yeah, we get time. Let's talk. Let's go through it. The one that we've had the most discussion with over the last, 3, 4 years has been office. And I always say this, that, once you get south of, a certain point outside 128, the market changes for office. it's just not as overbuilt. It's not as dense. You don't have some of the larger corporate, tenants and buildings that have, higher density. Um, and so you just don't have that high vacancy rate. It's a lot of smaller groups, a lot of mom and pop, a lot of small organizations, or it's, organizations that have been able to have sort of a hub and spoke. Maybe they'll have a downtown or a Boston based headquarters with some sort of, outpost somewhere in the South Shore. So you just don't have as much supply, and you still have a healthy amount of demand. I think I see a lot of organizations like ours that, hey, they want to have a culture, and in order to have a culture, you need to have a place where your employees can come, and not just because they have to, but because they want to. And so I see that a lot. And you've also seen different sectors grow, such as, health and human services, behavioral health. You see a lot of autism centers, speech and language pathology within the office sector. Obviously, medical is its own space, and that's been growing. So that's really absorbed a lot of the vacant space that's been left over from just groups that left the office and went to more remote operation. And there's still businesses that are doing that have more of a full remote or more of a hybrid work environment. But that's fine. I think that's healthy, and we get that there's organizations and employees that value having a more of a hybrid or remote work model. But south of the city, I mean, south of Boston, I think office has been pretty steady. It's been stable. We haven't seen it completely tank, and we haven't seen, huge swaths of vacancy unless you're kind of in some of those pockets within the, inside 128. So you look at, kind of Braintree, Quincy, you look at, sort of like Dedham, Westwood, out towards Waltham, and you've got just a lot more density in with respect to office. But I mean, even in those spaces, I think you're starting to see some absorption from, either corporate office tenants or just, adaptive reuse cases. I think you're seeing a lot of that happen. Whether it's a conversion to multifamily in some of these larger, Class B, Class C office buildings, or they're just getting taken down for land value. So it's actually taking some of the office space off the map, uh, um, and reducing the supply. And then you've got, nicer assets that, developers have come in and scooped up at a discount. And what we're seeing is those developers are acknowledging that they really need to amenitize that space. So they're putting a lot of dollars into lobbies and, cafeterias, food service, outdoor space, fitness, gym fitness areas, and to attract tenants. And I think that's really working. And you're seeing larger companies like, Fidelity is probably the like most recent example, large businesses that are, having these mandates of, 5 days a week or a certain amount of days a week. So, not that that should happen, or if that's helping or not, but I think the signal is that I think more people want to start to come back to the office
Well,
in our view.
well, the office is very important, and I think some of that is uh, great to have south of Boston, and I hate to say it, Dave, but also north of Boston. Now that we have
Hmm.
a little more of a transit system going into those areas. So people that do live in Boston now can travel to work on the train to go to
Hmm.
Hingham or uh, Weymouth, all those other areas that
Hmm.
were not accessible years ago. So I think
Yep.
that's beneficial for companies to come there. And some people, it's a breath of fresh air to get out of the city for the day, and then
Hmm.
there's nothing better than the nightlife in the city. So then at night you go back,
Yeah.
So
That that's it. Yeah,
And
I think those urban those town centers on the South Shore are awesome, and if they're served by some a regional transit system, whether it's the T or MBTA or the bus or whatever it might be. I mean, it's they become more vibrant, and it's a place where people want to go, and they want to work or they want to live. So it's and I think we're starting to see that more and more. And you look at places, like Hingham, and, Plymouth, Weymouth, and some of the new developments that are happening there, Braintree, Quincy. Um, and I think that's even starting to kind of, go further out. And I'm hopeful that it does. And because it is a great place to live and work and grow up and have a family too. So we love the area that where we are, and we're hoping that long term more businesses and CEOs see that, say like this is a great place. It's a well-educated workforce. We've got infrastructure. We've got good school systems and um, yeah, it's a coastal community, great place, great environment to live. And but it's close enough to the city that if you want to go in and have nice nightlife or go into a nice restaurant in the city, or go to a museum, whatever that might be, you get access to it. It's right there.
now I also noticed that retail has definitely grown and is definitely expanding into the South Shore area. Uh,
Hmm.
well, all of the South Shore. I say South Shore because I'm originally from the South Shore. Everyone corrects me.
Yeah.
Uh, Randolph and Brockton, and they're not on the South Shore.
Yeah,
They're
sure,
south
sure.
of Boston. And I'm saying south of Boston, I
Yeah.
see a lot of retail expanding as well.
Yeah. We do this. We see the same. I think retail, even nationally, I think has expanded, and you're seeing a lot of different types of businesses, a lot of service retail. Um, you know, we call medtail is a kind of like a common term for it. So think med spa, dental, PT, things that typically you wouldn't think of as retail, those service oriented businesses going into retail spaces. And I think we've seen kind of a rebound from the restaurant hospitality business as well. You're starting to see some more groups come into that sector, whether it's kind of quick serve, and you're definitely seeing some more of that come into the market. Some of the national brands coming into the market because they see the demographics, they see the traffic, and there's a lot of good opportunities, in let's call it Southeastern Mass, instead of calling it this just the South Shore. That's because that's really the market that we service. Route 3, Route 24, 495, 95.
Right.
So we're seeing that sector do really well. And we've even seen rents, start to climb in some areas. So I think we're doing really well, and vacancy rates are very low in the retail space.
Yeah, that's a good sign. Definitely a good
Yeah,
sign.
yeah.
You know,
No,
I
it's
mean,
great.
it's a shame because a lot of these restaurants that were thriving before COVID, they
Hmm.
couldn't hold on, and they
Yeah.
ended up closing. And now
Hmm.
uh, it's all new types of restaurants that are coming in, and some are
Yep.
pretty unique, and some just your average, you know, type of restaurant. But
Yep.
I do see quite a few chains that have started up. And they also these chains that were bought before COVID with these venture capitalists,
Hmm.
and they were only looking at the bottom dollar. They didn't care if they were
Right.
offering good service or bad service. They could care less what was happening. And now you're
Right.
seeing them all folding out.
Yeah.
And now you
Yeah.
see venture capitalists coming back in, buying these places, and that's what their focus is. They understand the process now. If you don't
Yep.
give the good service, good food, and all that, it's not gonna
That's it.
it's not gonna stay alive. So.
That's right. Yeah, and and there's headwinds in that sector too, right? It's we always talk to businesses. Staffing is really is very difficult. Food costs have gone up, with inflation. So it's hard when people are expecting to come to your restaurant and like get a value, and all of a sudden, the burger that used to be, $15 is 25. It's hard for like the consumer uh to swallow that, no pun intended, but it's just what has to happen with inflation for these businesses to stay afloat.
Well, I can tell you when I was a kid, you could get a burger for 25 cents. So
There you go.
now $15, that's a lot of money for a burger.
It's crazy. So but you know, some of them have been able to figure, some of the local operators I think have been able to figure it out, and those ones that have got, have figured it out, they are getting approached by, private equity and venture capital. So
Yeah, but I think like I said, the idea is offer the product, a good product, and offer good service, all these things that go along with that type of business that customers are going to appreciate, and they'll continue coming to your place of business. Uh,
that's it.
yeah, the venture capitalists that have lost that before COVID, I
Hmm.
mean, they just never understood it.
No.
And I remember, and I'm not going to mention the chain. I remember that there was one chain that they hired a guy to operate. He was
Hmm.
a venture capitalist. They hired a guy, not from the restaurant business. I forget what company, what business he was from, but it had nothing to do with service at all. I think he was like maybe a financial guy, and they hired him to run the company, and that's all he looked at. He didn't care. Oh, you know what? We're spending too much money on making people happy here. We got to cut that out. So
Yeah.
they realize now that you lose everything if
Yeah.
if you do that. So you're saying the South Shore is thriving, or south of Boston is thriving.
Yeah. I mean, I could we always do better? Of course, right? I think
Well,
that,
everything.
yeah, you could always do better. Um, I don't want to say it's thriving. I don't want to say it's not thriving. I think there's always room for improvement. But as far as the real estate market, yeah, it's been pretty tight. I think we work with a lot of um, you know, assignments to place tenants and find locations for different businesses. And I have to tell them it's a tough market. It's tight. There's not a lot of options, and there's not a ton of vacancy. There's not a ton of options. I think with what's going on in the world, I think there's with some of the geopolitical macroeconomic challenges and threats. I think it's helped shake it out a little bit, and so I think um, there's definitely some opportunities I think on the horizon with what's going on out in the world. So it's softened it up a little bit. And I probably see that the most in terms of industrial real estate. So um, you know, post COVID, for every space that was available, you'd have five or six tenants lined up for it. Just just jumping at industrial and warehouse space, and that's what drove the our lease rates up. Probably 50%. Over a very short period of time. And I think right now you're kind of in this. We're probably at a little bit of equilibrium where you're starting to see some of those spaces come out and come back to the market. So supply and demand are kind of right there. And there's a lot of tenants that got into their lease pre-pandemic, and they were paying, single digit rents, and now all of a sudden they're getting their renewals at almost double what they were paying, pre-pandemic. And it's a really tough pill to swallow for a small business. And um, but it's also the market. So they go out and look around for space, and they see the same thing, lease rates into the teens and mid-teens and upper teens per square foot for industrial space that used to be, again, single digit rent. And it's a tough pill for them to swallow, but it is reality, and it's what's going on in the market. So as a result of that, we've actually seen a lot of those, I'd say, smaller businesses, more mom and pop, maybe, local and regional in size, looking to acquire their own space in the industrial side. So there's a lot of demand for those businesses to own their own real estate, which is where we've done a lot of our business. It's helping those groups identify locations to acquire, but they're not readily available. It's a lot of that's off market. A lot of it is not. It never even hits the market. And because they want to have just, hey, we want to fix our overhead for the next 5 years or 10 years, whatever the bank will allow. And it's a hard thing. So that side of the market has gotten very competitive. But as far as lease availability, there's things starting to open up, and so there's some opportunities for groups looking around.
Well, I can tell you, before I got into this business, I owned a chain of retail stores in New England and in Florida. And one of the regrets I had before I sold the business was that I didn't purchase my space. I should have bought the real estate,
Hmm.
because if that was the case, would have been holding on to the real estate today and been collecting my lease money. But
Yep.
I didn't do that, which was a big mistake on my end.
Yep. Yeah, having that control, if
Yeah,
you can. Not everyone has to be able to do that, whether it's financial or just owner that is in a place to sell. But I always say this: if it's not for everybody either. It's not owning real estate isn't for every organization.
right.
Some organizations, they're not in the real estate business, right? Most of them aren't, and so you need to allocate capital and allocate resources and allocate time to the things that deliver to your bottom line, and that's not always investing in real estate. So that capital can be placed elsewhere. But for a small business owner, it makes a lot of sense. It's to have that. I call it a piggy bank, right? Where it's like you're collecting principal. It makes a lot of sense for small business owners to own their own real estate if they look out their long-term business plan and say, hey, we're going to be here for the next, again, 5, 10 years. If your business is growing so quickly
Right.
that you're not sure, then you shouldn't be you shouldn't be owning your real estate. You should be leasing.
And restaurant chains, they tend to do that as well. They'll either do a ground lease, or they try to buy their own property, own land.
Yep. Yeah, that's it.
Is Are there a lot? Do you have a lot of land available in the South Shore? No,
No,
buildable space.
yeah, I mean, is there land available? Yes. Is there a lot of it? No. Land is they're not making any more of it, as my dad used to say, right? And in the challenge, I think, in southeastern Mass is you don't have a county form of government. You've got, it's local, it's bureaucratic, um and it's difficult to get approvals. It's from a zoning standpoint, every town's different depending on which way the wind is blowing, and who's on the planning board or zoning board is going to dictate a lot of what happens. And you're seeing that those discussions play out a lot over the last few years with MBTA, community overlay zoning, and which we've talked a lot about, Rick, ad nauseum. But it's you there's just not a lot of land that's in the right place with the right infrastructure with the right zoning. That's the challenge. And I think, towns and cities in southeastern Mass, I'm hopeful that they can kind of think strategically as to, okay, there's demand for businesses to be here with these types of uses. And instead of making it very difficult for them to come in, we need to design our town in such a way where we have this area set aside for this type of development. And if we want that type of development, let's roll out the red carpet. And I know in my town, like we're going through a big override discussion. And I know a lot of towns, I think there's like 50 or 60 towns in Massachusetts that have gone through override discussions, or it's been warrants on town meetings. I mean, these towns are hurting because they've got either pension, unfunded pension liabilities, health insurance costs, everything's gone up, right? And the taxes aren't keeping up with it. So how do you grow a good commercial tax base? Well, in order to do that, you need to make it appealing for that business to come into that town.
Right.
You can't throw up a bunch of roadblocks, and I've seen that my whole career. Just
Well, it's always
towns
been
making it
that,
hard.
like the old saying, "Oh, not in my backyard," you
That's
know.
that. That's right.
And
That's right.
unfortunately, everyone has to give up a little bit of their backyard nowadays. That's the way it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, and a lot of times, like what they don't want in their backyard, they're just ignorant to what that is, and what they assume it will bring to the town. It's usually not what they think it is.
No,
Is that
usually
that's
what they do is there's the propaganda that starts whenever a company wants to come into an area, and the people in the area start their propaganda slamming of the company and the products that they
Mhm.
make or
Right.
warehouse, and that gets the people in the town riled up. So, but
Yep. Yeah. And yeah, it's not all without merit. I mean, there's obviously situations that are warranted, and the town should push back, but in many cases, it's just ignorance that's fighting it. And but that's what we try to do, is just try to make it as clear as possible, and help. We're working with different towns across our market all the time, so that's one of the things that we help, is trying to make sure that they're aware of, hey, the different zoning bylaws and the different zoning boards, planning boards, the process, getting with the right, land use attorney or engineer to make sure that they craft the right narrative with a certain development. But it's been hard to develop land, not just because of zoning, but construction costs have skyrocketed, and
yeah,
it's become
that's
very, very difficult. So it's hard to never mind trying to get it entitled, but trying to get it built within budget has been very difficult.
yeah, yeah. I mean that all those pieces make it, it makes it a little more complicated than it should be. You know, they're little
100%.
bits of a puzzle that you have to figure out how you can fit them together.
That's right.
So, Dave, do you go to anywhere else as far as throughout the state of Mass, or do you go in Rhode Island or New
Yep.
Hampshire?
Yeah, we're licensed in Rhode Island as well. So we have been starting to kind of, let's say, push out that way, but doing some deals in Rhode Island and out into I call it like the 95 belt is really where we're trying to push out towards. And we've taken on a few agents recently that are helping us expand into those markets. And for the most part, 90% of what we do is Southeastern Mass, so Boston to Cape Cod. But we've gone out, we've got, partnerships and throughout New England, through a few different networks. And I'm an SIOR broker, so that gives us a little bit of a platform. And Bill in our office is also SIOR broker. And so that gives us sort of like a national, even international network of the best brokers in the country and the world to leverage resources and work with clients that might be headquartered in our market that are looking in Florida, California, Texas, Tennessee, whatever that might be. And so that gives us a little bit of a wider area that we can cover and make us a, even though we're an independent smaller brokerage, it gives us that platform.
Yeah, and I can't say enough for SIOR. I work with them and they a great group, and I don't understand any commercial broker that is not part of that, as well as CCIM. They're both very
Mhm.
good organizations for a broker or anyone that is actually in commercial real estate of in any segment of it. I think you
Yeah.
should be a member.
Yeah,
So,
it's great. It's great for our for our education, for understanding best practices, seeing things and that we might not haven't. I've encountered a lot in my career. I haven't encountered everything, and to be able to pick up the phone and call someone that has been in the business for a long time that might have seen something like that, maybe in another market is it's incredibly helpful. And so we love our SIOR
yeah,
network that we
it
have
helps
access
keep
to.
you ahead of the game.
For sure. Yep, exactly. Exactly.
So, Dave, if someone's interested in getting a hold of Ellis Realty Advisors or even yourself, how would they
Yeah.
do that?
So, the first thing that they could do is they go on our website, which is ellisrealtyadvisors.com, and look us up. They can get a sense of who we are and what we do and reach out, whether it's to myself or one of the other, top brokers in our office. Um, but they could also call us 781-919-0800 and get a live person on the line and talk through what they need to talk through. And we always try to make ourselves very accessible. I think that's one of our superpowers is just listening and try and wanting to understand a situation, wanting to understand a problem and being available to our clients. So, but that's how they get in touch with us.
Okay.
And we're always here.
And before we leave, I would just want to tell you, I want to congratulate you on your new office building on,
Thank you.
what is it, on Hingham Pond Park?
Yeah, so four Pond Park Road.
Or Pond Park.
Yeah, I appreciate you bringing that up. And so we just moved here in April, and it's a really cool space. And one of the cool things about it, this was the former headquarters of A.W. Perry, who's I know a big believer and supporter of the New England Real Estate Journal, but also good friends of ours. And so there was sort of this legacy of being a real estate building, and we couldn't be happier. They had done a whole big project in 2019 and 2020 with the core and shell, and they were looking for a large user for the whole building, and just couldn't find someone, obviously post-pandemic, and we had this opportunity come up last year to acquire it and move our headquarters here, and we were able to pull that together, and we just moved in. So thank you for bringing that up because we see this as a place that will really help elevate our brand and really a good collaborative place where we can bring clients, bring in industry professionals, bring in Rick. You're welcome anytime. You come by
All
and
right.
grab a cup of
Tell me what
coffee and
days
let
you're
the
serving lunch. I'll be there.
well,
No,
no,
I'm gonna have to come down and visit. I'm familiar with the park, so I do know that there's a lot of buildings there that um, like there's the medical building when you first come into the park, but the access to that industrial park is so convenient. Anyone that's coming to visit you, they just hop off Route 3 and they're there.
that's it. Yeah, we're in the epicenter of the market, right off of Route 3, right across the highway from Derby Street Shops. But it's funny because you say Derby Street Shops, but everyone knows where Social Orthopedic Center is, and it's the
Right.
building right next to us. So it's very easy for us to get to where we need to go and people to find us. So we're really excited about the new location.
And there used to be a woman that used to have a Thai food truck that used to be at the beginning of the park. I don't know if she's still there. but the food was
Yeah.
unbelievable.
They'll have to bring her back. There's definitely a food truck over there, so we frequent it. So it's a good
Yeah.
spot.
Well, it's a great idea to have one there. So again, we're talking with Dave Ellis from Ellis Realty Advisors, and I want to thank you again, Dave. It's appreciate you coming on, and I also always enjoy talking with you.
Likewise, Rick. Always good to see your face and hang out and chat with you. So this has been awesome.
Well, thank you, Dave. Right back at you. And I want to thank everyone for listening. And you're listening to the NEREJ NYRJ podcast. I'm your host, Rick Kaplan. And today's podcast is sponsored by Cassidy Paving. Contact Cassidy Paving at www.cassidypaving.com for all your paving needs. To be a sponsor on our podcast, contact me at rkaplan@nerej.com. Until next time.